How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking with Dan Cohen. He is the Chief Performance Officer and co-founder of Human Powered Health, a company that does more than just all the scans that you may be familiar with when it comes to DexaFit, DexaScan, VO2 max testing, lactate testing, all of that. They do that and a lot more. And they have quite a unique vision for helping as many people as possible on this earth to get fit and live healthfully. So without revealing too much, I want to introduce you to Dan Cohen. Well, again, just want to say thank you so much for taking the time, I guess, to jump on and allow me to ask some questions of your life. But it's an honor. I've heard about you through a few people. So it was fun doing some research to kind of get the behind the scenes on what's been going on in life. But yeah, really just happy to have you on and just want to say thank you so much, first of all.
Oh, well, thank you, Seth. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So the first question I'd love to dive into is a bit of an introspective one and one that I really like to ask guests, and that is, who is Dan?
Ooh, who is Dan? Dan is a very focused individual. I'm very driven and very motivated, and passionate. My friends jokingly called me tunnel vision and just throughout my life, because when I get focused on something, I tend to go after it, and it's hard to kind of knock me off my path. But I'm somebody who is, I consider myself a genuine person, an authentic person. I love learning new things. I love meeting new people. I love sharing ideas. I've got a family. I have a wife and two younger kids, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they're the world to me, as you can imagine. And we're just a family that is really tightly knit. We are both very close to our immediate families, and we love to explore. We travel quite a bit with our kids. That's something that my wife and I have decided that we want to do. I traveled a lot when I was younger, as I mentioned, moving to Japan for a while. My wife, she is a world traveler, lived in a lot of different countries, and she speaks, multiple languages. And it's something that we really see the benefit in. And so every year we try to go to a new place, explore and get the kids out of Minnesota to, see what else is out there. But I've got a deep passion for health and human performance. I've always kind of been oriented in that area. I've always been an athlete. I started my athletic career as a hockey player. In Boston. I started when I was really young, and then when I moved to Omaha, got involved with the Omaha Hockey League, and played all the way through my sophomore year in college, and then decided that I no longer wanted to play hockey, and I got into running shortly after college, and that I just fell in love with it immediately, and it, essentially started my career. And I got into triathlons eventually, and the rest is history. So
yeah, for sure. Man, there's a lot to unpack there. So I guess just really quick, a comment, thinking about the transition from hockey to running. Some people would consider running to be like the toughest of the three sports in terms of just the damage it can do on your body. But I imagine moving from something as physically demanding and demoralizing as hockey, moving to running, it felt a little less intense, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's, they're completely different opposite ends of the energy system spectrum, right? I mean, you got a really pure anaerobic sport, all about power and acceleration and speed and all that good stuff, and strength, to, being a long course endurance athlete. It was quite the shift. I mean, I was 210 pounds, I believe, in college. And, at my peak when I was racing, Ironmans and triathlons and all that stuff, I was about 165. So my body went through quite a transition.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, but it was more mentally, um, it was a completely different mental experience, as
Mm.
you can imagine. And something that I just gravitated towards and um, fell in love with, and then I quickly just got kind of bored of just purely running and decided to explore triathlon and got into that here in Minnesota,
Yeah.
um, the land of 10,000 lakes. And when I started, there was a triathlon or two every single weekend starting in May, essentially, and it went all the way through September. So there was a lot of opportunity to explore. So
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit, because I'm curious. I know literally nothing about hockey other than maybe a couple of team names. Never really played it. But talk to me a little bit of difference. You're talking about this mental endurance required, or just like, I guess, the mental outset and mindset required to play that kind of a sport versus like what was the shift you noticed?
yeah, so I mean, hockey being involved with the team and you're actually sitting on the bench and you have to manage a lot of different personalities and team dynamics.
Hmm.
Um, it was a much more just kind of short, really intense burst of energy. Every time you get on a shift, you would go out there and you go as hard as you can for 2 minutes, and it was a very challenging in that regard. But I actually think the endurance sports is much more mentally demanding, at least for me, because you get into these longer engagements where you've got a devil on one shoulder and you got an angel on the other, and one's telling you to stop and slow down, and you got the other one that's saying no, you could do it, and you only have to go for another 2 more hours or something like that. And it
Right.
just builds a lot of mental resilience and grit, I think. And I believe that is one reason why you see a lot of endurance athletes who are very successful in life and very successful in their careers. And not to say that, you know, other sports don't experience that. I just think it's different.
Sure.
It's a different mindset, at least for me. And it was a welcome change because I think the endurance sports are much more geared to my personality. I'm type A. I'm driven, and I just, as I mentioned, I'm very focused,
Yeah.
and I was able to use endurance sports as an outlet, essentially. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So, we've talked a little bit about your drivenness, the passion that you have, friends calling you tunnel vision. Like, how did your family and the life that you were raised in shape you to be who that Dan was eventually to become?
Yeah, I had a very supportive family, and as I mentioned, a very close knit. We were always active, and my parents put a lot of focus on education, something very important to our family, and but we were always supported. When I was playing hockey, um, being in Omaha, you have to travel, and I recall for years my parents driving me up to Minnesota and to other locations across the country weekend after weekend after weekend. And, really is something that I always appreciate and want to give back to my kids because it gave me opportunities to try different things and to know that I'm supported by my family. And I think that that makes all the difference to
Mm.
try new things and to get out, push the envelope in your whatever you want to achieve. That's that's what they instilled in me and the rest of my family. So I think it was um, a welcome upbringing, if you will,
Yeah.
because I was so supported in everything I wanted to achieve and accomplish. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And now that you're a father of two, I think you said 9 and 7. Is that the correct
9 and 7.
ages?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you have some good experience under your belt now of parenting and, things, I would imagine things that you were brought up with that you liked, disliked, and then, you're choosing kind of from the tool. set what methods and materials you want to use to bring those children up. What are some of the things that you have learned from being a father that you kind of compare and contrast with the way that you were brought up?
Yeah, I mean, we're extending, and my wife lived in a very similar kind of family arrangement where she was supported on things that she wanted to do and to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're carrying that forward for our kids. And I think, times have clearly changed. I think the world has changed since when I was a kid. And, um, there's a lot, I think there's some different challenges that are there, but in essence, it's very similar in that, we focus our energies on giving the kids the experiences, letting them try different things, even when they don't want to. My son the other day he's in piano class, and he's actually really good, and he loves it when he goes, but it's always, getting him out the door. I don't want to go do piano. I don't, um,
Sure.
making sure that he when he starts something, they finish it. And I think that
Mm.
that's really important. That's what my parents instilled. That's what my wife's parents instilled, is that when you start something, finish it. And I think nowadays, that mentality is still there in some respect, but I also think that,
It's
it's a
degraded.
little more loose where, kids, the statistic that I've read is that kids stop sport, 70% of kids stop sport at the age 13. And I think that that's, a big challenge,
Mm.
right? Um, let's keep kids in sport. I think it sets them up for life in general, um, and gives them a good outlet to, push the boundaries. But so I think, yeah, I mean, we're raising our kids based off of how we were raised and what we believe in, and we're supporting them and trying new things and getting out of their comfort zones so that they can, be the best person that they can possibly be and achieve whatever they want to accomplish. And I think that starts fundamentally at the ground level, in the parenting structure and what we're able to provide for our kids.
Yeah, for sure. So then, for you, moving toward, I guess, high school, you're pretty supported. You have ample opportunity, it seems like, to be involved in sport, and obviously, you would become a professional triathlete, and I would love to talk about that. But as you moved in from like the high school ages, you're kind of figuring out who you are, and then you're coming into the college years. What made you land on choosing St. Mary's University, going down the route of physiology and human health and all of that stuff? Like, what started to kind of push you in that direction?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to go to a smaller school, and I also knew, and I was well aware that while I was an okay hockey player, I was nowhere near a D1 quality, or
Mm-hmm.
level. And St. Mary's was a good, decent, Division III school that was small. Um, my father is a pathologist, microbiologist, cancer researcher, and so I originally had gone to St. Mary's because of the strong focus on the sciences, and I, was contemplating over my freshman and sophomore year if I wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps. And I took chemistry class, and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe not.
Yeah.
Um, I
Along with
uh,
many
I
of us.
decided to focus on psychology, and
Mm.
I think that was really because I was trying to understand my mindset, and I wanted to understand how other people think, and so I decided to go into psychology, and it was a great decision. I learned a lot. And then from there, I decided to, get into exercise physiology again because I wanted to learn about what was going on inside my body.
Mm.
Um, and while I was feeling certain ways and, as I was exercising and racing. And so that's that's where I put my focus on in college. Yeah.
So, what are some of the lessons, I guess, or the things that you've learned? Because you obviously deal with being the chief performance officer for human powered health, and we'll get into that. I want to hear the whole origin story of it because you've been involved in. It seems like not just this is the only startup and entrepreneur residence and so many things, but in terms of the psychology, like I'm fascinated with that field. Just from my own story and seeing how the brain works, and sometimes it behaves in ways that just make no sense at all, and trying to piece together those things is never an easy thing. So, what are some of the lessons and things that you've been fascinated with, considering all of the people that you've worked with in human powered health in your previous 12 years working with United Health Group and the different levels of systems that you were able to create in the kind of the business models around those?
So as it relates to psychology or
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think the most important learning for me is that everybody's unique and you can't make assumptions based off of just one conversation with somebody. You got to really understand um, at the base level who a person is and understand their motivations. I think that's a big thing, right? What motivates me might not necessarily motivate you as an athlete or as a person.
Mm.
And I think it's important not to put people in certain boxes and make assumptions, but you can get really good glimpses of people just by um, talking to them and getting a better understanding of where their mindset is at, what really motivates them to do what they do, whatever they're good at or whatever passions they're exploring. And um, and I think it creates a really nice dynamic when you can understand who a person is
Mm.
and what motivates them to do whatever they do. Um, so
So, in the world that you're in right now, like, what would you say is your, like, maybe it can be top one or top three motivations for doing the work that you do?
yeah, I mean it's to make an impact on a millions of people. I mean that is really fundamentally what I want to do and what Human Powered Health wants to do and what we're looking to accomplish. Um, I've seen the challenges and the inefficiencies and the cost of a really reactive healthcare environment that we're all faced
Mm.
with. And there's a way to do health differently. And that's one of the things that Human Powered Health is aiming to do is to create a better way to think about your health,
Mm.
um, how you're held accountable to your health, um, and taking more of a proactive approach to health. And that's something that um, every day when I wake up, that's what I think about, and that's what the team thinks about. And we're just beginning our journey here at Human Powered Health, and
Mm.
looking forward to sharing a little bit more about the vision of the business overall. I think we're doing a lot more than just the performance labs components, which people think about when they hear about Human Powered Health. So
Yeah, what is that? I mean, I think now would be a great and appropriate time to kind of unpack that a little bit. Like, what is the
yeah,
overarching vision?
yeah, I mean, and maybe I can start with just my career and how it kind of led to where we're at today.
Yeah.
Um, I as I mentioned, I really passionate about triathlon, and that's the sport that I have oriented myself around for the last, you know, 15, 20 years. And I started a coaching company here in the Twin Cities area, um, and with a couple other guys, just a small direct to consumer coaching company. And at that time, because triathlon was such a huge boom here in this state, it worked out really well. It ultimately got absorbed into United Health Group, and that's where I spent my 12-year career in healthcare. Um, and I learned a lot about the health system, as I mentioned, the inefficiencies and the challenges. I spent a lot of time in the wellness space and the prevention side of things, and also the innovation side, and worked on a lot of really cool, innovative products, sold a lot of cool, innovative products. Um, and, we saw a lot of opportunity to, as I mentioned, to do health differently. Um, After 12 years in iHealth Group, I transitioned over to Jory Capital, which is our um, private equity family office that was started by um, by Dave and Ann Wickman, and Dave was the former chief executive officer of United Health Group. Someone who's, both of them are deeply passionate about health and human performance.
Mm-hmm.
They're both very fit and active in their own right. And, our mission there is to support companies, transformational companies, both on the health side and the human performance side. And on the human performance side, we support companies within our 4 pillars of health, which are movement, mindset, fuel, and recovery, which is pretty broad, but
Sure.
I think it gives you a good idea of where we're playing. And Human Powered Health is one of our portfolio companies. We felt like there was an opportunity, and when I was racing as a professional triathlete, there's just a lot of fragmentation in the space to get support for the athletes, right? So if I wanted to get a specific test, like a VO2 max test, or I wanted to talk to a registered dietitian, or I wanted to, poke my finger and get my lactate, I'd have to go to multiple different locations. And it was just a really clunky experience. And so Human Powered Health, part of the lab business is all about accessibility and taking all that fragmentation and consolidating it into a really seamless white glove experience, where motivated individuals can go to learn about their unique physiology. And it's not just a place where Olympians go. Yes, we've had Olympians come through. We've had pro athletes of all shapes and sizes come through. But it's more about, as we go down the pyramid, providing a space where individuals can go who are motivated. They might not necessarily identify as an athlete, but they can get really important data around metrics that are important. Things like VO2 max and DEXA scans, the things that we know based off of research really move the needle on health. So all the all-cause mortality metrics are the things that we're focused on. And it doesn't really matter if you're an elite level athlete or if you're somebody who's, just looking for general health metrics. It's really all the same. It's more of how you apply it and you change the protocols and those types of things. So that's one component of Human Powered Health is our market leading lab experience. We decided out of the gate to not cut any corners. All of the equipment that we have in our lab experience is medical grade, research grade, best in class. We've got graduate level exercise physiologists who are not only passionate about this stuff, but really know how to take the data and then apply it. Because individuals are collecting data from their watches and applications and all kinds of different things, but nobody seems to really know how to utilize that data in a really effective way. And that's something that we're doing. The other component of our business is digital, and that's something that we're leaning in very aggressively on. We acquired a AI-based coaching platform called HumanGo about 8 months ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It's we knew that we wanted to, we didn't want the lab experience to be some episodic approach where people come in, they get a test, and then we don't see them again. We want to be able to extend the relationship outside of the lab environment and be able to take that data and then provide accurate recommendations, insights, and guidance. And the only way to do that is through digital means. And so Human Go takes insights and data from 14, 15 different devices and applications, your schedule, your availability, who you are as a person, your goals, objectives, and then it will periodize a plan for that individual. And the cool thing about it is it actually adapts in real time. And so, for example, if I wasn't able, I had a run scheduled for this morning, and if I wasn't able to do that run because the system knew that my heart rate variability was off,
It'll adjust.
it'll adjust the entire program, the entire plan, which is really game changing.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's focused primarily right now on athletes, mainly endurance athletes, we are rapidly evolving it to become much more than that. Think of it as a digital center of excellence for proactive health and human performance, where all your data will be housed there. You'll be able to get recommendations and guidance both on the movement side and nutrition side. You can purchase products, you can get health coaching, lots of other things that we're planning
Sure.
to roll out. And to support those efforts on the digital side, we actually just announced or just launched our human-powered health technologies business, which is based in Hyderabad, India. We just cut the ribbon a couple days ago, and it is a full-stack software development company that's all going to be focused on AI, machine learning, large language model, all focused on proactive health and human performance.
Hmm.
And its initial focus will be to support human-powered health in our mission to power health and human performance for everyone. And then we'll expand its scope to support all of our portfolio companies that we are engaged with. And we think that it is a really, really important initiative for us, and that's why we've made this investment in this technology capability.
Yeah.
And then we
If
have
I
a youth
may
sports
interrupt.
assessment platform
Oh,
that
sorry. You
go
mind if
ahead.
I jump in for a minute? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was going to ask a couple of questions about first of all, it seems what you're describing with human powered health is there seems to be an overarching vision for it to be almost a competitor in the healthcare space, as you were saying, for people who are quote unquote motivated. Is that an accurate assessment that like this would be someone who would potentially compete for, I don't know, as like a subscription based almost clinic where you pay this, like this is going to be almost your doctor. This is your health insurance. You come in.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the angle that you're going for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you think about it, we've got deep expertise in healthcare. We've
Mm-hmm.
got deep expertise in human performance, athletic performance. And when you converge those two things together, you've got something that's really powerful.
Yeah.
And
I,
so, yes, we will be building out programs specific for employers. There are, you know, I believe 140 or 150 million Americans that are on a employer-based plan.
mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of opportunity to support individuals in a different way. The traditional healthcare model, the wellness model that folks experience, I think is going through a change, and I think it's a good opportunity to take a different approach and
Sure.
to really focus on the things that are going to move the needle in health.
So on the AI space, this is something I've been thinking a lot about. So I coach just a couple of athletes. I really am a very data driven, formulaic type of a person. Like I'm self coaching myself now after being coached by some people for 3 or so years. And, even in talking with some of my other friends who are not necessarily professional level athletes that are coaching themselves, but I would consider in like the elite category, it's very common to kind of use your own knowledge and then something like ChatGPT and kind of guiding these large language models to build what you have, because really at the end of the day, I would say, and this is coming from a relatively low education in this space, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be that the case that 85% of really all of this is like doing the consistent work. So my question for you is, with using things like, because you just had this acquisition with Human Go AI, and you just hired this full stack development team over in India, so you're clearly gearing up for something larger. Where do you think that the future really is for actual coaches? Because I'm thinking to myself, like, the only thing that really a human coach offers me anymore is just the friendship, like knowing kind of the interpersonal, emotional needs. And an argument could be made that even those systems eventually could compete to offer what's needed in those spaces. So, what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on how that's going to dramatically shift and
Yeah.
change? And like, yeah,
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we get asked all the time by coaches.
yeah,
um, you know, we're taking the approach that you need to be able to blend technology and human interaction together to really drive behavior change. Um, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where, at scale, um, AI is going to be your the only thing that you need to use to improve your health or your performance. I think there needs to be a human element involved. Um, the traditional coaching model that I came from was you would write a training plan. Somebody would come to you, they approach you, you would write a training plan based off of the principles of periodization. You'd spend a lot of time doing that. Actually, that was the majority of your time. And obviously, as you get more and more individuals that you're working with, it gets it gets really
it
time
becomes more
consuming.
difficult.
And you essentially, a coach, you would have a cap of where you could really support effectively. For me, it was
Those
about
people.
30 athletes. I couldn't go any higher than that, or else the
Mm-hmm.
quality would go down.
Yeah.
It's really tough to make a business off of that. And so, the approach we're taking on the coaching side from a human go perspective is we're not here to replace human coaches. We're here to unburden them by leveraging technology so that they're not sitting there having to write training plans all day long. They just need to focus on working with the actual individuals, athlete or
Yeah.
whoever else they are.
Yeah.
That's where the real value is. And I think a lot of coaches nowadays, they put their value on
In the training plan.
writing training plans.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to change. And I think the more coaches that embrace technology, and the first ones that embrace technology are going to be the ones that are really successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we've talked about deeply within our organization, is because we hear from coaches and they say, well, I don't want to lose my job and have AI take over. It is a complement to their business and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be embraced.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I would.
that's our view. So I think that you need to have human interaction involved, because there's certain things that humans can do that AI can't do.
Yeah.
And I think that'll always be the case. So
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think that it's, yeah, I've had numbers of conversations with different types of coaches, and to me, it seems like, yeah, adaptation is required. I mean, when the internet came along, as self-driving cars are coming along, like, if you got to figure out how to use them, but what do we hold that something like a machine doesn't hold? And really, it's what going back at the very beginning, what I think interested you is that psychology aspect. And I would love, because I don't think we should not know how to write a training plan. But now that I know how to write a training plan, and I can write a prompt for any large language model to write, like, honestly, like a pretty good training plan that then you can spit it out. At the end of the day, I think more training should be probably focused around the psychological aspect of if figuring out how to take somebody who's sitting on the couch unmotivated, and then they're motivated tomorrow. Well, what happened? And then how do you repeat that process? Because I've had conversations with athletes, they bit off more than they can chew. They're 3 days from a race, and then all of a sudden they realize, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to hit any of the expectations that I had upon myself. Knowing how to talk somebody through that realization so that they can have a mentally, like, a good day that will afford a physically decent day is, like, not an easy thing to do.
yeah, no, I
So
mean,
yeah,
I think you're spot on. I think you know, athletes, in my view, like really serious athletes, they would eat a shoe if it was going to make them go faster. But as you go down the pyramid and you start focusing on, more of the general population, that's where behavior change and behavioral economics and all those different things really come into play, because the variation of motivations and is significant. And I think you're exactly right. Talking to somebody who can help motivate you, inspire you, and hold you accountable
Mm-hmm.
is the name of the game. So
Yeah. So when I look at the human powered health website, super crisp, clean, everything that you guys put forward, very well done, down to the lighting of your videos, matching the colors that really embody your brand. Like, it all looks perfect. And from looking from the outside in, I'm like, man, this is like the coolest thing ever. Obviously, from being a founder and going through these different steps, I would assume that there's moments in time where you guys have reached a new pivot as a company or whatever, where things are like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work out. So, like, how are things going, like, really now, kind of behind the scenes? And then what's the origin story and some of those hard hurdles you guys have had to overcome to build to what it is today? I mean, it's only been, what, 3 years, 2 years since you really
it's been
started
2
it?
years. I mean,
Yeah.
we opened our first lab last year, in April here in Minnesota. And then we quickly followed that with 2 labs in Boston, one off of Newberry Street within the Track House, which is a company called Tracksmith, athleisure brand focusing on runners. And then
Yeah, I've seen that. It's cool.
we've got an 8,000 square foot lab experience halfway
Wow.
point of the Boston Marathon. It's like, boom, like literally halfway point,
That's cool.
which is a beautiful lab. And then we're opening one in Scottsdale.
Oh,
Um,
sweet.
so we're still in learning mode in terms of on the lab side. And so we haven't done anything significantly different, or we're not planning to change our trajectory, anything along those lines. I think we need more time to absorb and learn and figure out, what are the trigger points? How can we educate the market on what we're doing within the lab experience? Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding or clarity that
Mm-hmm.
is just starting to surface here. I mean, I think Peter Attia and Huberman and all these longevity guys and gals are doing a really good job at bringing this stuff to the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that in general, the consumers need more education around this stuff and why it's important, right?
Yeah.
Why is VO2 max likely the number one predictor of all-cause mortality? I've been talking about VO2 max for 25 years because I read the research. I understand the importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, consumers think that it's only for Olympians or somebody who's a serious hardcore athlete.
Right.
When in reality, it's something that all individuals should do, because you need to know what your aerobic capacity is. You need to know what percentage you're working at, and you need to know why it is really impactful and creates a cascade of really positive things inside your body that can help extend your life or your health span or your lifespan. So I think the market needs a lot more education. We feel good about our lab experience in general. If you just go through the experience, we hear a lot of people saying that this is just, I've been waiting for this my whole life. As an athlete, I wish I had this, that type of thing. So we're still in learning mode, and yeah, so that's what I would say.
Yeah. The origin story for, like, starting this, was it pretty clean between your 12 Hours United Health Group? Sounds like the CEO or previous CEO, like, he was involved in this co-founding movement toward the creation of it. What was that? What was the idea? Because I'm sure it was a lot of things. And then how did it morph into becoming human powered health?
Yeah. So when I had started at United Health Group, we launched another business which was pretty unique within United Health Group. It was a direct to consumer lab. I mean, it was designed to help individuals, mainly employees of United Health Group, learn more about their unique physiology. We did classes. We pulled some of that fragmentation into one spot, and it worked really well. But ultimately, uh, I moved on to different areas within United Health Group, and the idea was kind of always there.
Hmm.
And we saw an opportunity to again do health differently, and um, and to really take this lab concept where we can get into the market with a unique experience that nobody has really been through before. Sure, there are labs everywhere. You can go to a university,
Sure.
um, you can go to a health system, and you can go through a lab experience, but it's not very consumer friendly. And it's just not an experience I think that consumers really expect. And so we decided to launch this business, and ultimately the origins of Human Powered Health, the brand, come from our cycling team. So we
So that
also
existed before.
yeah, so and the cycling team has gone through many iterations over the years, as you can imagine. The sponsors change. It went from United Healthcare to Optum to Rally Health, and then Human Powered Health, Kelly Benefits. Um, and so the name Human Powered Health has been around for quite some time,
Hmm.
but we decided that we wanted to extend the actual brand into a business
Okay.
that was poised and is poised to impact millions of lives, leveraging our expertise in healthcare, leveraging our expertise in athletic human performance, and then hit the ground running with something that's really unique and transformational. So
Yeah.
that's really how it all began.
Yeah.
So
There's so many webs here. I feel like I could try to dive into one, but then I'm like, I don't think that I'm educated enough to be able to ask the best question. So forgive me if I struggle a little bit, but what does like the day to day look like for you in what you're doing with human powered health and how it relates to, it sounds like a lot of different things. I imagine your team's not super large. You're doing acquisitions. You guys are working on the labs, and then you're trying to paint this bigger picture. Like there's so many things to do.
yeah, I mean, in 2 years we've grown actually quite rapidly. With our India expansion, we're around I believe 75, 80 people now.
Sheesh.
Um, yeah. So day to day for me, is I office here at Jory Capital. Right across the hall is our our Minnesota based lab. Um, I typically start my day there to go talk with the lab team, and just uh, you know get the lay of the land. What appointments do we have coming into the lab? Um, how are things going? That type of thing. And then it's if I'm not on the road, um, we're talking. We're just working on different strategies, and planning for the future essentially. So we've got our head of marketing that is based here. Our head of growth is based in Castle Rock, Colorado. Our operations team is here. Um, we've got a small development team, an onshore development team here that also offices in the building I'm in. And then we've got our account managers and other folks here. So I typically will do the rounds and just talk with each different business function and see where I can lean in, help, support, remove any roadblocks, and then just more planning around the future and what we want to accomplish. So
Yeah. What?
um,
Who are the other? Sorry. Who are the other? I guess founders. Because you're co-founder. How many other founders are there that kind of sit there with you, making these decisions to figure out what the future is?
yeah, so I mean, it's Dave and Ann Wickman are the owners of the business. And then our performance director, Treese Wickman's a co-founder of the business as well. So we have our executive leadership team that includes our all of the individuals from our business lines. So that would be the performance labs, the human go capability, the AI coaching capability. So the CEO of that business, Eric Abkassis, also runs our technology.
Okay.
So he's the brains behind the AI, and he's part of the executive leadership team. And then our youth sports assessment platform as well. So yeah, so I mean,
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of work.
it's
That's
a
what I'm
lot.
gathering.
Yeah, yeah,
So, like whenever you are traveling, I assume it has to do with like strategic partnerships, figuring out what the future is going
yeah.
to be. That's what a lot of the travel is. How many days of
Yeah,
travel do you? Yeah.
exactly. We also we work closely with our cycling team as well. The managing director for our cycling team, Charles Aaron, he offices here as well. So there's a lot of work around that. In fact,
Hmm.
our cycling team was just in our lab in Boston last week.
Okay.
So all the athletes came over from Europe, and they were doing 3 days of testing, sports psychology, nutrition, bike fits, all kinds of different assessments,
Yeah.
and before they roll into the off season. But so there's some travel there for that as well, to meet with potential sponsors of the team and supporters of the team. But yeah, I mean, it's mainly going out and talking with groups that are potential alignments with our business and what we're trying to accomplish. Um, and then I travel quite a bit to Boston, as you can imagine,
Hmm.
um, to work with the lab teams there, and we've got several partners and sponsors that are out there as well. So
Yeah. So, what are you looking forward to? That's taking up a lot of mental bandwidth for, I guess, wrapping up this year and then going into next year.
um, so getting India scaled,
Yeah.
and making sure that we this time next year we'll likely have about 70 developers, which would be a huge accomplishment.
And a
So,
lot to manage.
making sure that we are efficiently and effectively scaling that business so that we can move quickly in our digital roadmap. Um, that's a big area of focus. Planning where we're going to open up our labs is another really big focus.
Hmm.
We put a lot of thought into the locations that we're going to go into, the different markets, and more importantly, the approach. Um, it's a capital intensive
Yeah.
investment to put in a lab. Our Wellesley lab, it's 8,000 square feet. So you think about the equipment, the aesthetics of the location, all of that is taken into account. And so making sure that we are strategically aligned in markets that make sense is critically important for us. And so we're always looking at different areas of the country and where we can put in our lab experience. We have essentially we have an approach on the lab side, um, where we've got a flagship type experience, like in Wellesley, which is 8,000 square feet. We're not going to be putting in that large of a footprint in every single market we go into.
Hmm.
Rather, we can put in more smaller, narrow focus labs, and put those in very quickly, uh, like the one in Boston with Tracksmith, and
Yeah.
Wellness in Motion is a company that we partnered with. And then in Scottsdale, we're partnered with a physical therapy group called Endurance Rehab.
Okay.
And I was introduced to the owner of that business, had a conversation with him. He had some space that was available, and he had always wanted to put in more of a holistic health experience uh, in that area to complement his physical therapy business. And so it was a match made in heaven, so to speak. And we said,
Good.
all right, we're coming. And so
Yeah.
we built a lab. We're building a lab there right now. It's nearly complete. We're very excited. We think Scottsdale, Phoenix area is going to be a really good market for us. Obviously, it's warmer climate.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a healthy, older, active population. A lot of athletes are going there for training in the off season, and so
Yeah.
we think it's going to be a nice market for us.
Yeah, for sure. As you guys are in this stage of your growth and looking, I guess, at revenue potential, but not only that, but like strategic partnerships, I imagine where you're choosing to put these places, like, with Tracksmith and whatnot, is that going to be the good goal for going forward in 2025 to put it in areas where more elite athletes would be who have a potential larger influence to kind of share that experience? Is that your marketing angle slash expansion? Is that where you guys are going for to then
Yeah, I mean,
afford later
I don't know
more
if it needs
people?
to be specifically geared to athletes per se, right? Because we're going after a bigger market. We'll
Sure.
always serve athletes. They'll always be a part of what we're doing. That's at the core of who we are. But there's a much bigger opportunity around addressing the metabolic disease in this country.
Yeah.
80% roughly of Americans are now overweight or obese. It's,
Mhm.
50% are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
And so I think the markets that we go into, um, in the areas that we're going into, uh, we're very thoughtful about that. And we just, if you look at Newberry Street, it's a pretty nice area of Boston. Wellesley is a really nice area of Boston, and because we want it to reflect the premium brand that we are.
Hmm.
So think about there's Lululemons by us, that type of thing. That can give you a sense of kind of the areas of the country
Yeah.
that we're exploring.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also opportunity to put in smaller flagship labs, or smaller satellite labs in different markets where it makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah. Yeah, I hope with this new administration coming in, because there seems to be a little bit more of a focus toward a changing of food regulation and changing of just how we view obesity and any type of an issue when it comes to disease. We could go down the list. It'll be interesting to see how that would affect your type of a business, because you have more and more of these YouTubers popping up, and everybody said like talking about the Huberman and the people that come on Joe Rogan and um, I'm forgetting Gary Breck. Like all of these names
yeah,
are kind of popping up there, but it would be really great to see that education, like you're saying, disseminate down even through like I guess the non-existent middle class or even the lower classes to kind of bring people up. Because with these types of services, like they are expensive, and usually people it seems they're going to be most interested in them are ones who are training probably more than 5 to 6 hours a week, I would imagine, and they want to like better
yeah.
themselves. But to get that person, you say millions, hopefully even hundreds of millions, to like motivate them to get to this place where they see value in that is not an easy thing. So it would be great to see that
It
hopefully
Yeah, it's
happen.
not an easy thing, and I think you're right. I think there's gonna be a much more, uh, concerted effort to, get the country back in a place where it's healthy,
Yeah, thinking about
relatively
it.
healthy, and
Hmm.
putting more focus on proactive health. Um, but you're exactly right, and by no means are we building something just for those people that, are elite level athletes or, can afford it. Our prices are very, very reasonable.
Hmm.
If you look at the landscape of what we're doing, I see some of these longevity businesses that are, $20,000 a year. We'll never go to that kind of approach. I don't think it's
Yeah.
well, first of all, I don't think it's scalable.
Hmm.
We want something that everybody can have access to, and as long as they're motivated and ready to make a change. And I think the digital component really helps us get there. by having something that is all-encompassing and essentially a digital center of excellence that can be applied to across, the entire population and globe, essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So for you, what does, on a personal level, what does success look like for you um, going now into the future, and how has that definition changed over the years?
Success for me is to have a vision and then be able to execute on that vision and achieve it. That's how I view that's my view. And I think we've got a very unique opportunity here to help change the health trajectory of this country, and hopefully eventually the globe. Um, but it takes a big vision, and then it takes the right ingredients to bake the cake to make it happen.
Sure.
And I truly believe that we have the right ingredients, and now we just need to bake the cake. And so we're well on our way. I think over the last 2 years, it's been a really good learning for Human Powered Health. It's been a good learning for Joy Capital. It's been a good learning for our cycling team. It's been a good learning for all of our partners to really understand the totality of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal and objective is to be on the forefront of all things proactive health and human performance, to be the source of truth for health, right? I think a lot of individuals go to Dr. Google and they find all kinds of stuff, or they're listening to these influencers or pushing various products and all these things. But when you boil it down, it isn't really that complicated.
Mm.
You just have to give individuals the data, the guidance, the accountability, and the recommendations, which is more critical. Right? How do you use this data
Right.
in an impactful way? So for me, success is really having that vision and then being able to execute on it, and deliver it and make an impact on millions of lives. That's our goal and our objective, and that's what we're going to do. So
Yeah. How long do you think it would take before you reach that place where you'd be like, okay, this is it. We've that vision has now been foreseen, and now it's morphing into a larger one. What kind of a timeline do you put on something like that?
um, I think it'll be a couple years, right? I think we've got work to do on the digital side. I think we have work to do on educating the market that, the reactive healthcare environment that we're all faced with right now is not working, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's going to take a couple years for the dust to settle with, the new administration and how things are going to change. But I do see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's
And,
good.
we aim to be right there, at the forefront of it.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, one final question then in closing. Obviously, you're very driven, like we've talked about, and it requires a lot of focus to be able to execute these types of visions. So, for somebody who wants to make a jump, move out of what their current situation is, they have a vision for the future. I think a lot of people struggle to get started. And then out of that group, the people who do get started, it's really difficult to focus and give it
Yeah.
enough time to know like if it's going to work or not. What kind of practical advice would you give to that kind of a person who's looking to make that jump to be able to learn how to focus?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, finding the right people to talk to, where you can share your vision and, have an authentic conversation with that individual or group of individuals. And then being able to, I think where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of drop off is that there are opportunities in front of them, but they can't see it or they
Mm,
can't articulate it, and it's a missed opportunity. So I think understanding where the opportunities are, uncovering those opportunities, And then being able to articulate your vision to the right group of individuals who are aligned with what you're telling them, I think is the utmost importance. And I think a lot of people quit before they really should.
Yeah. I don't half bake it.
And they half bake it. I think that you have to be resilient, and you have to have grit, and you have to have the never surrender kind of mentality, or else it's very difficult to navigate through, at least as an entrepreneur, it's very difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
But ultimately it starts with a grand vision, and you got to vet that vision with a lot of people to make sure that it is the right vision and it makes sense. And then you go after it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Dan, thank you so much for allowing me to dive in and ask some questions. Get to learn a little bit about human powered health and Joy Capital and the cycling team. Definitely going to be doing some more research on them because I think it's awesome. But yeah, all the best to
our
you
team
as
is
you continue to
our
grow.
team is poised to do great things in 25.
Yeah.
We got some new riders. The team it's going to be exciting. So you have to get to a race one of these, maybe next year. You come out to Europe and go to one of the events.
Yeah, for sure. Are they the human powered health? Is it a men and women's team? Or is it just
So we had a men's team. We decided to consolidate down to an all women's team. That's another thing that we're really focused on is we want to be at the forefront of supporting women, not just in sport, but in life in general.
yeah.
And so we decided last year to consolidate down to an all women's team, and it's working out really well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'll have to reach out to some of the riders and the people involved, maybe the managers and stuff. I've had a few.
Oh yeah. They'd love to talk
awesome.
with you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll make it happen. Well, thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, Seth. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you so much to Dan for coming on the podcast and allowing me to ask a bunch of questions. Admittedly, I was a little scatterbrained this episode, and so they were a little bit all over the place, but it was a good conversation. Dan did great, and really appreciate him coming on and having the opportunity to ask him questions about human-powered health. Seems like they're doing a ton. Definitely going to be doing some more research, so I can hopefully have him on again, and also some cyclists from their human-powered health professional women's cycling team. So that'll be really cool. Look forward to that. When asked for advice, though, I want to leave you with these last few words. When asking Dan, how do you have enough focus to make a dent and figure out how to, execute on a vision? Make sure to talk to lots of people about your vision, have the bravery to do so, do it, and then be willing to be true to yourself and see it to completion, whatever that looks like. If you made it to this point in the podcast, though, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. Thanks for watching. If you are doing that on the Spotify platform or YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, review, any and all of those things, including rating, really do help continue to grow the podcast. And if you are on any of the podcast platforms, where you can leave a question or a comment or rate it, please do that as well. It really does help us to continue to grow. And when I say us, I definitely mean me. So yeah, thank you guys so much, and we will catch you in the next one.